he's doing great. But he's been doing great since the day he started. He just started off doing well. So we ended up naturally, because we live close to each other, we rode around together. Friend groups kind of mixed up a little bit.
Yeah. So that's how you met Tyler Priya. It glitched out. It's crazy. It's the internet.
Oh, yeah.
But we got a good part of it. So you met Tyler. He hit you up asking about how to get into comedy and stuff. You realized that he would do it. He got with you and started doing it at Madison Station, or no? Where was his first time?
I believe his first time on stage was Madison Station. I wasn't there the night he started, but the first show we did together was in Madison Station, at least.
What were your thoughts when you first met Tyler?
Well, it was Tyler and Caleb.
Okay.
And I'll be honest, I love Tyler to death, but I thought, man, this guy is out there. Like, he Tyler, I know Tyler.
He's a wild animal.
So I'm not telling you anything, but he is. He's wild. He's got that crazy eye, in his eyes a little bit, and you don't know what he's about to say or do. It's always good. It's always with love. It's always, positive. But when you don't know him, and you're talking to, and he's a bigger dude too.
Yeah.
Like, he's kind of jacked.
Yeah.
So it can be intimidating. Like we met up at Lamone's in Henniger, and it was him and Caleb. And Caleb's
yoked, son.
I was like, oh God, I'm gonna get my ass kicked. I don't know what I did to these people, but it was cool. They're I love Tyler to death. He gives a lot of
he's got good energy, man.
Yeah, positive energy and a lot of love.
He wants good, man. He wants good for everybody. So we're gonna go way back. What was school like for you? Where'd you go to school at? Who'd you kind of hang out with? What was it like? Did you play sports? Did you do theater? What was school like?
All right. Let's.
He said, "Holy shit!"
Yeah,
no, it's asking questions.
No, it's a great introduction to me as a person because I'm a walking contradiction. When I started out at Fife, did terrible. Ended up moving in third grade to Sandrock out in Cherokee County. I absolutely loved Sandrock. I was doing great there. Straight A student, starter on the basketball team.
Very cool.
Going into ninth grade, I was starting on our JV basketball team. A little bit of a jock, honestly. I was playing soccer. I ran cross country. I went to state in cross country at Sandrock. And I was also, that was my punk rock goth phase, walking around with the bondage pants and the white makeup. And I went all out, spiked out hair, spike bracelets, all that stuff. I was trying to get attention.
Everybody.
Yeah. Life was rough, at home. So I was a jock and a punk at Sandrock. And then life got even more tough, and I ended up moving over here to Sylvania, moved in with my dad. My dad's a preacher. So the whole punk rock spike bracelets, that was not flying.
That's the devil.
We can cuss on here, right?
Okay. Whatever you want to say.
Yeah, that shit wasn't going to fly. And so also my stepmom at the time, my dad was the special ed teacher here at Sylvania. My stepmom at the time was the English teacher at Sylvania. And they had decided among themselves to, buy me some nice clothes. And I was down for it. Like, whatever, obviously my life needed a change.
Yes.
So I started dressing real nice and proper. But I did quit playing all sports. I was just like, I didn't want to do it anymore. Joined the band at Sandrock. I was in band while doing sports as well. I played one game of football. I got tackled so hard that the cleat shoved my underwear up in my asshole, and I thought I'd shit myself. I had to play the whole game in white pants, thinking I had shit my pants, which was traumatizing.
Yeah. I did shit.
Yeah, I was like, okay, well, in that game, I caught a touchdown pass. This was at Sandrock, and I walked over to the sideline, and Coach Jakeway was, patting me on the back, and I was like, "Is that the best part about this game?" And he was like, "Yeah." And I was like, "I'm going to go join band." And I quit football that day. I love, I respect football players. That's a lot of hard ass work.
Yeah,
for real. But it's just, I'm too ADD. I would be on the field just looking around like,
this is it.
What's going on? Okay.
Why have we never heard that fucking story before?
Well,
that's a funny story.
Yeah,
right?
No, I'm saving. So a lot of my best material, I don't want to do on stage right now because I understand. You've seen a lot of new comedians. We put on shows together. You see how the comedian thing goes. In my opinion, it takes 5 to 10 years before you're ready to just comfortably go up and do your best material.
This is what I got, motherfucker.
Right.
This is it. This is that shit.
And before then, you've got to work out things like how to control a crowd. You got to work on how to show your confidence, because you have to be confident. The second you show any weakness on that stage, it's just like in a fight. The second you show that weakness, all that energy shifts against you.
That cat wants out of here.
Yeah.
Why do you think it is so easy for a crowd to go, eat a dick, fuck you? Why are they jumping on stage right now? What's causing all that?
Well,
because it is happening. What's his face got slapped. They even jumped on, wasn't it Chappelle that also almost got attacked?
Yeah.
What is causing that?
I think a lot of that, I don't know.
That's weird. That's wild.
I haven't been in it long enough to give a really, informed answer on that. My own personal opinion is that for a long time, comedy has been shifting away from let's give these folks a good night and into let's go have a good night in front of these people. And I feel like they're starting to become there's a growing divide between audiences enjoying a comedian or audiences coming up to watch it for the drama.
Yeah.
Because you get a lot of the comedy specials, and this isn't on newer comics. I'm talking about like the big time comedians that are doing these big shows. A lot of their material, and they're good enough to pull this off, but a lot of their material, like Dave Chappelle, has been very polarizing. It's been very, I'm going to poke fun at this group or that group. And Bill Burr's the same way. A lot of the greats are that way. And that's awesome for them because they can handle it. But then you get mid-level comics that, like I said, they're 5 to 10 years in. They're just learning how to do some of that stuff, and they're not as good at it. And then you get brand new comedy. I see this as a comedy producer all the time. You get open micers, you get brand new talent,
and they try to make an N-word joke.
Something. I mean,
and that don't fly. We don't know who the fuck you are. Dave Chappelle can say Nigga.
Right.
Random white cat that's never done anything kind of can't say it. Keep going. I'm listening.
Yeah. Well, no, that's going to get you canceled.
Yeah.
But even less inflammatory than that, they just get up and they want to make their whole. I did the same thing when I first started out. I said to myself, I want to be a dark comic, and that's like every white comic that wants to get up there wants to be a dark comic because that's what we live. I mean, that's the way we've learned how to cope with life is to use humor. And when you cope with life by using dark humor, you go some dark places. But when you're being paid to stand in front of a crowd that's been welding all day or that's been lifting heavy things all day, or, they just spent $10 of their hard-earned money to sit there and have a good time. And you go up there and all you've got to joke about is just the darkest stuff.
Yeah.
That can bring out some dark stuff in the crowd.
Or like you say something like, fuck welders. You guys are half or something like that.
Yeah. And you don't have a good joke to make the welder laugh at. Yeah. I think that's a big part of the problem is just comics, in my opinion. And again, I'm not a super experienced comic, but in my own opinion, what I'm trying to do with my career right now is I want to give those people who paid me their hard-earned money a good night.
Same.
Right.
With the fights. Now, granted, this is your episode, but same with the fights. I just want them to have fun. Like, they're giving us money at the end of the fucking day. If they decide to tell us to eat dick and fuck off, they don't give us no more money, we don't get to do it anymore. Yep. So I understand that. What are your thoughts on Joe Rogan as a comedian and as a podcast guy? What are your thoughts on that?
As a comedian, he's a god. I mean, like he's risen. Do I think his jokes are the funniest? No, I
don't either.
But I don't have to think his jokes are the funniest to realize that like the dude has made a living off of doing this. He has succeeded. I'm not going to knock success just because I'm not. Successful. It's not my favorite thing. The podcast, I love some of the guests he has on there. I hate some of the guests he has on there, but that's a good podcast. Like that's what it should be. At the same time, there was one. Who was he talking to? Tim Kennedy.
Tim Kennedy's that's a man.
Dude, I disagree with Tim Kennedy on pretty much every front.
Yeah.
But as far as the practical sides of things go, but the main points that Tim Kennedy makes in every podcast I've seen him on, I'm like 100%. Now I would go about it totally differently.
No, wait. What points though? Because I'm lost. I've never seen one episode of Tim Kennedy on there.
Oh, dude,
I just know that he like literally kills fucking people.
Oh yeah.
Go ahead, elaborate.
Tim Kennedy's, first of all, he's a badass.
Yes.
Now, if you, I would encourage you to go watch the Tim Kennedy, Joe Rogan episodes. They're awesome. In one of them, Tim Kennedy's talking about going down. He was doing some research. He was down in South America, and he kept running into these Nazis. And he was like, and I'm not talking like American neo-Nazis. I'm not talking about dudes hiding out in mom's basement talking about hating the Jews.
Yeah,
I'm talking about legitimate like guys that came over from Germany that have the uniform pieces put up on the wall.
That's wild.
And he talks all about like running into these guys and they've got whole communities down there. I think it's Brazil. I'm not 100%. But go watch that episode.
Oh no, the Jewish people in Brazil. I have seen that.
Yeah.
A whole bunch of Jewish people just went to Brazil after during the Holocaust or after.
Yeah.
That's insane.
Well, and some Nazis followed him.
I never would have thought they went to Brazil.
They've also got I don't think it's in Brazil. It's another South American country. They're still dressing up in like antebellum Southern clothes.
Yeah.
And
I've seen it.
Carrying on the CSA. It's insane. South America's insane. But Tim Kennedy talked about that some. I didn't really disagree with him much on that one because there wasn't much to disagree with. The one episode that I think I sent it to Tyler too. I'll send it to you when we get done
Yes,
here.
please.
But they were talking about, the woke agenda. They were talking about extremism in general, not just on the left, but extremism on the right, left, overseas, domestic, everything like that. And it was funny because and here's getting back to what you asked, what do I think about Joe Rogan? One of the things I dislike most about Joe Rogan is sometimes his guests will be getting to the meat of a subject and he'll just at one point, Tim Kennedy's talking about extremism overseas and our foreign policy on how to deal with it and how beneficial some American interventionism is, which some American interventionism is absolutely beneficial in these countries. Tim Kennedy was telling a story about how he had helped build a school, and he'll go back years later and these people can read, and all of a sudden they're building like aquaculture and they've got fresh water all of a sudden because they figured out how to filter their water. And in the middle of it, Joe Rogan starts talking about his Audi. And just going on this, and I'm like, Joe, shut up, please. But I mean, the man clearly, entertainment wise, he's a genius. I got to respect that.
I think he's made a ton of money. I don't find his comedy funny. I get why bro culture would and stuff, but I don't find him to be particularly funny. I think he's a smart man. I think he's a genius as far as what he's done.
Oh yeah,
making his money. I just don't find him funny. I'm not going to pay. I would pay tickets to see Joe Rogan in concert just to meet Joe Rogan.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I don't care to hear him tell jokes. What about Brendan Schaub? Where you at on that?
I'm not familiar.
He's not funny. You just stay.
Is he a comedian?
Yeah, he is now. He got on pretty big because he's Joe Rogan's friend, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. On the woke culture, I did see one piece of that episode, and Tim Kennedy went to the coffee shop. He ordered his coffee, and then he also ordered his drink for his wife. Do you remember that?
I don't recall that exact situation, but
he said, and the lady will have he said, and my wife will have a so-and-so. The person at the bar was like, don't you mean, shouldn't he be able to call his wife his wife?
Yeah.
Yeah. No. It's kind of a weird time right now, right?
Yeah. We're in, I don't know. We were Facebook friends for a while. And anybody that's watching this right now that watches my Facebook will know I play a character on there that's much further left than who I am if you know me. And that's because I feel like, and this is a Tim Kennedy thing. I think he said that in the same episode. Ideas need to be exposed to pressure. Ideas need to be one of the biggest drawbacks with going so far into the woke culture that you don't allow anyone to put any pressure on you is that you don't have any pressure on what you're thinking, and you can very easily run away with insanity because you feel like you're right. You surrounded yourself in an echo chamber. And this isn't just on the left. This isn't just woke culture. This happens across the board. If you surround yourself with an echo chamber of people that only agree with you, and you never put yourself in a position to be judged, and you never let yourself be judged, you never take any criticism internally, it's going to blossom into insanity. In every case, that's how you get extremists. I mean, you've got Islamic extremists. Islam itself, I've studied it. I've read the Quran. Islam as an overall idea is just as peaceful as Buddhism or Christianity. But just like with both Buddhism and Christianity, if you put a tribal culture in an echo chamber where they have no real access to the outside world, and you've just got this one group of people laying down, well, this means this, and only one group of people allowed to interpret what's being taught, and nobody else really with enough of an education to critically think about what's being said. And then it becomes this powder keg. All you have to add to that echo chamber is the spark of us versus them. You have to convince these people that have been in this echo chamber that this other group of people that aren't in your echo chamber hate you and want to kill you.
Just because they don't agree with you.
Right.
I don't think either side's right. I think I see good stuff on one side. I see good stuff on the other side. I don't vote straight ticket, none of that stuff. I understand what you're saying on that part. That's pretty cool. I like that. I think we can agree there 100%.
Yeah.
You said yourself you play a very far left character.
Yeah.
How has that affected you here where you live? At all? How is that?
A ton.
Go ahead.
If you go back on my Facebook profile, and anyone's welcome to do this, I don't hide it. When I was in the military, I played a far right character, not the far right as we know it today. But just growing up, we grew up in the same place. You know how it is growing up around here. Do you remember back when the big thing was the statues were being torn down and everybody wanted to do away with the rebel flag? I ardently defended the rebel flag.
See, I wouldn't have guessed that.
Yeah. Well, you can go back and see it. I never deleted anything or hid anything. It's on the same profile I use now. I don't share that opinion, like legitimately as a person. I don't really share that opinion anymore. At the time I did. I boot camp was my first real experience with any African Americans or Black people, or and I say Black people in general because like there were straight up Jamaicans that were getting their citizenship by joining the Navy. And these were the biggest assholes I had ever met, and also the first large group of Black people I had ever interacted with. Because other than that, I lived on this mountain my whole life.
There's not a lot of Black people here.
Yeah, no, I was ignorant. I went through boot camp, and these dudes were assholes, and I was already. My ignorance was more towards fear. It was never hatred for anybody else. It was just fear of the unknown, I guess. Yeah. I never had the same problem with Hispanic culture because we have a ton of Hispanic culture around here.
We have a ton of Spanish.
Right. So I've always been cool with them. But like with Black people specifically, I was terrified. And then the first group of people I met were Jamaicans, and that particular group of people were being huge assholes.
Yeah.
So it just reinforced that ignorance. And
so you were like, I'm going to be racist now.
Well, yeah. I mean, it wasn't that clear cut. But that's what happened. I was like, well, okay, everything that I learned growing up kind of turned out to be, seems like it's true. So when I showed up to base in my truck, I was driving an F-150 with a rebel flag tag on the front of the F-150. And I lived in like the projects in Virginia Beach, which is, I was one of the only white people in this place with a rebel flag tag on my truck. And dude, there was a lot of intense and awkward conversations. And I think even there's pictures of when my son was born. I had the rebel flag hanging up behind the couch, holding my son and stuff. I've changed and I've grown a lot in changing and growing. And the reason I say all of this is changing and growing the way I have after I got out of boot camp and I started to actually experience just your average everyday people. Mm-hmm. I started learning that all of us are a lot more alike than we are different. Yes. Like most humans are not that special. And I mean, like individually, sure, you are. Yeah, you're special. And
you're a snowflake.
Yeah, there's something individual and unique about everybody. But in general, habit-wise and goals for life, most people want to live in peace. Most people want to be able to provide for their family and be able to relax as much as possible, but also work. People need to work. People need to have an outlet to express themselves artistically, craft-wise, and also just a good hard day's work keeps you healthy. And when I realized that's pretty much everybody that wants to do that, and everything else is just kind of extra that gets put on the edges, it made me be able to empathize with everybody a lot more. So during the whole time that we were arguing about rebel flags, the culture, not me and you, but like the culture was arguing about that. I was kind of defending it. At first, I was like, well, it's heritage, not hate.
Yes.
That was my first go-to talking point was it's heritage, not hate. And nobody really understood that. So I had to refine it down. And this is when I decided to start playing a character on Facebook. Because of that, I had to refine it down past the basic talking point and really explain what I thought, what I meant by heritage, not hate. The best way I found to explain it was when I'm driving down the road here in Sylvania, Alabama, and my car breaks down or it's about to break down and I got to find a yard that I need to pull over into. If I see three houses, I see one house that's real nice, yard's real well kept, and everything looks real prim and proper. And I see another yard that's got a bunch of junk sitting in it and a rebel flag flying off the porch and a beat up old pickup truck in the lawn. I'm pulling over into that house.
Yeah.
Every time, because I know that culture. I know those people. And that's the way I like growing up. The people that I loved, the people that I respected, they were flying that rebel flag. Yeah. So of course I began to associate it with that. But then it was explained to me that like, that's just my experience being from here. And then I heard experiences from other people where the way they associate that flag is that when they were growing up, seeing that flag meant danger and sometimes did result in violence.
Yeah.
And it was like, okay, all right, cool. So at the end of the day, I had to make a choice of like, this flag means one thing to me. When I see it, it stands for one thing. But when they see it, it hurts them. It's never hurt me. That flag's never hurt me. It's never been associated with something that I
have to worry about.
Right. But it does for them. So I have to make a choice on whether or not I'm going to hurt them for my own what? Like I'm not really getting anything by flying that flag.
Yeah.
So is it my choice to fly it or not? Sure. I'm an American. I have that right. If I want to fly that flag, okay. But I don't want to fly that flag because I know that it's causing pain or harm to someone else.
Okay, now I understand that. But now to that, I think there's white, black, Asian, Mexican, everything. There's groups of assholes in all of those groups.
Right. Yeah.
I don't mean anything negative. So how you say it? There's not a lot of black people here.
Mhm.
Black people that are my friends are normally people that I've met through fighting. People in like Ohio, people in Florida, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I don't just, again, they don't live here. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But people like K.O. Butler, Cam Graham, all these people that I'm meeting out of Huntsville that are fighting at Rocket City, you know, that it's more of that there. We've never had any kind of racial trouble ever. There's never been anything weird ever.
Right.
Never. What's up, man? They high fives. I give them hugs. I tell them all of them because I do. They help me do a cool thing.
Right.
On that, one of the arguments that I see is often that there is a Black History Month, right? And that's great, and there should be.
Right.
Why is there not a White History Month? Now, I understand there's some bad white history.
Right.
I understand that.
Yeah,
but there's also some good.
Yeah,
there's also some
absolutely.
good. So why are we differentiating there?
Well, it's a great question. The best explanation I came up with so far, and using the character that I play on Facebook and putting just the most ridiculous arguments, submitting them to pressure so that I can see, okay, what is the actual counter argument to this? I've been down that road a couple of times, and from what I can tell, I'm a huge history nerd. I love studying history. The more I study history, the more I find I have to try to find history about anything other than white people. Like a lot of history, like for instance, you know, we talk about the Dark Ages. What in your mind, like from what you've learned, what are the Dark Ages to you?
Oh, no idea. No,
I don't. Well, so in general, the way it's taught in school, the way I learned it in school, and even in college, I took college classes for this stuff too. We teach the Dark Ages like the Roman Empire fell, and then technology just went away, and we stopped writing down history, and we don't know what happened. And we act like that's everywhere in the world, but it's not. That Dark Ages happened landmass area-wise in the southeastern United States. Like it happened in Europe, from northern Italy up to Great Britain. But if you took that and put it in the US, you're talking like from middle Florida to mid Illinois. That's the land area. Meanwhile, the Chinese Empire was still rolling like it had been since before recorded history. And Baghdad had a library that was bigger than the one at Alexandria. But we don't talk about the library at Baghdad. We talk about the Library of Alexandria because a white dude built that. And at the end of the day, I think we don't need White History Month because history has already been set from the perspective of white men. I mean, the victor writes history, and white men have traditionally been the people who were winning every war we started. We wrote all of the history.
Yeah,
you have to try and go find indigenous history. You have to try to go find.
Have you read about Black Wall Street?
Yeah, where they firebombed it.
That's pretty wild.
Well, was that there was one they firebombed?
They fucked up Black Wall Street. That's pretty wild tale, man.
Well, and you know about redlining.
Go.
Well, so when they were building cities, they redlined these cities, basically telling banks, and you know, you have business districts, you have shopping districts, you have residential areas. Within the residential areas, they redlined it to keep Black culture and Black families within the inner city. While somebody that's better at talking about redlining than this could do a much better job explaining it, but it was essentially a political and economic strategy to ensure that home loans would not be given out in suburbia to Black families. They would be given the projects, they would be given inner city houses and apartments, but they wouldn't be allowed to basically move up or move out of those areas. And then once that's done, they redistrict everything to make sure that businesses couldn't really prosper where Black communities were. And then you've got Black Wall Street popping up where they're like, okay, well, we'll go build our own thing.
They did. And they did. They had a ton of money.
Yeah. And then
they burnt that shit to the ground.
Yeah.
Well, you need to read into Black Wall Street. It's insane to read about.
You heard about how Central Park was born?
No.
That was a thriving Black community in New York City. They popped up. They were building. They were doing great. Had their own businesses. Had their own homes, industries. And New York said, "Oh well, we kind of need a park the size of a small town, so we're just going to go ahead and bulldoze all of that, move y'all into the projects, and here we go."
That's wild, man.
Which is why we need Black history. But you know, these are things that.
And I'm pro Black history. I'm pro Spanish history. Man, I love Spanish culture. I love Black culture. I love every culture that there is. I love food from every culture. All this stuff. I'm super good with that.
Right.
I don't think that I should be I think that it should be okay for me to be proud to be a white dude.
Sure,
I
yeah.
should be, and I should be able to tell my kids, "Hey, man, be proud of your culture and who
Right.
you are. This is who you are." We've done a lot of great stuff. We've done some bad stuff.
Yeah.
But that's the same for everyone in the world.
Well,
I just don't want it to be that my kids think that they can't be proud and happy. It's not okay that you're white, and
Sure.
that's where things get strange for me.
yeah,
Because I see Cain Velasquez,
Mhm.
fighter. I love Cain Velasquez. Big fan of him. He's in jail right now. Free Cain Velasquez. His kid got molested by this people at like a daycare.
Mhm.
Cain Velasquez,
I'm on his end there too.
he
Yeah.
got his gun.
Good
He
for him.
hunted that car down. He
Yep.
shot their car full. He's in prison right now.
Yep.
But on his belly, it says Brown Pride.
Yeah.
Now, if they let him fight, there was no issue. But
Mhm.
now, if there was a white dude to have a white pride tattoo, he's going to catch some hell.
Right.
Now, swastika is one thing. Get the fuck out. I understand that's not
Right.
okay. But if he was like, I'm proud to be white on my belly, I don't see such an issue there as with the other guy doing it too.
Well, there is an issue there.
I don't mean white pride like,
I don't-
whoa, I don't mean that.
Well, and that goes back to the same thing with what I learned with the rebel flag. At the end of the day, you don't mean that.
Yes.
But when you advertise it to the world, okay, well, swastika, you brought up a swastika.
Yes.
I'm a Buddhist. The swastika was originally a Buddhist symbol of
Yes.
peace and love. It was co-opted by terrible people who ruined that symbol across the world.
Yes.
If I decided tomorrow to advertise that I'm a Buddhist by using a swastika, would I be in the right to be angry that people took that as a Nazi symbol?
I can see that looking bad.
Right. It's the same thing coming back to the white pride. It's fine to be proud to be who you are. I'm proud. I'm Scotch Irish. I'm proud of that.
I'm so proud to be white. I'm Scottish.
Right. Well, yeah. I mean, like,
Well, Scottish America.
what is white? You know, I mean, like, white as an identity is nothing. White is a skin color. Our identity, and this gets into my real leftist beliefs here, and it's not as far flung as the Facebook stuff, but I am a leftist. This gets into some of my leftist ideology. I'm proud to be Scottish because the Scottish people, and you know this, your family were kings of Scotland.
King Kenneth Boss.
Yep.
Yes.
My family came from a noble line that was on the border. So we were a border clan fighting the British all the time, but it was a tribal culture, as was Irish culture, as was all Celtic culture, as was Viking culture, as was most African cultures. Like all of the places that I find that people are really proud to be from are from tribal identities.
Yes.
And I think that's a human nature kind of thing. And it's perfectly acceptable. It's perfectly fine.
That's what my people did.
Right. But what stopped those tribes from existing was the spread of
Why did they stop trying to be kings?
well,
That's what bugs me. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
empires and capitalism. And like I'm not preaching against capitalism. It's got its ups and downs like anything else. There's alternate systems, and those alternate systems also have problems. Not trying to like preach anti-capitalism, but capitalism is what stopped all of those tribal cultures from existing. The problem with being in a free market is you can't have a king dictating what you can and can't buy. And although these kings at the time, like if you're talking about Scotland, that's like half the size of the state of Alabama.
Yeah.
You're talking about being king of like
fuck
Mobile
off.
to Montgomery. Like, you know, it wasn't huge land area, but sorry. You have to, if you're going to have industry, you have to control the land because you have to control the means of production. You can't have someone else in control. Now, the way capitalists work with democratic countries is that they have a vote. You know, in the United States, a corporation is considered a person. They can donate to political campaigns, and most countries would call that bribery, but they can donate to political campaigns, and then that politician is beholden to, let's say, Volcraft. Volcraft's a great company. I'm not talking anything bad about
Just
Volcraft.
saying, for example.
For example, Volcraft brings a lot of money into Fort Payne.
Ton.
Volcraft has a political say in Fort Payne.
Yes.
They would have the same with a king, but the king doesn't get unelected if he doesn't do what Volcraft wants.
Yeah.
If the mayor doesn't do what Volcraft wants.
Yeah, he gets unelected.
Right.
Because of the money.
Yeah. And I think that killed a lot of the same tribal cultures. Now you get into colonization where it happened to be white people coming across the world, killing indigenous populations, Spanish doing the same in Mexico, the British doing that, the British and French doing that here in the United States. You've got, I mean, we live in Fort Payne. You can go throw a rock somewhere in one of the towns around here and you'll hit a historical marker about something fucked up we did to the Native Americans. Like we did terrible, terrible things as a culture. When we lost our tribal identity and we became part of this European culture, that's our new identity. And now when you say white pride, when it's just general white pride, you're identifying yourself with the colonizers that spread polio on purpose to Native American populations. You're identifying yourself with the colonizers that rounded up the Native Americans and put them here in Fort Payne and put them on the Trail of Tears.
Now I'm being associated with them,
Yeah.
or I'm choosing. No,
you are associating.
People are assuming I mean that.
You're associating yourself with them by advertising general white pride. Not that you mean to be doing that.
Not that I'm saying that. I don't just go around screaming white pride. Right. Conversation.
Yeah. I'm just talking about, like, again, like I said, with the rebel flag thing. To us, that association means one thing. But to other people, it means a very different and very dangerous thing. So I get where you're coming from, but I don't fault anybody for looking at that as a threat, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, I can see, like, if I was to go into like a neighbor, white pride, and screaming all that, that'd be kind of insane.
Right.
The tattoo, though, as far as like, if one person of a skin color can have it, I think everyone should be able to have it. That's all I mean by that. Speaking on the Nazis and stuff, the Von Braun Center in Huntsville. Yep. So how does that happen? Why is that named after a literal Nazi or a figurative Nazi?
No, literal. Yeah, he used to hang Jews outside of his factory for not working fast enough.
Go ahead, elaborate.
We named half of Huntsville after him. It's an atrocity.
Why is that?
Operation Paperclip. Have you heard of that?
No, I'm listening.
So it was an American intelligence initiative started right after the fall of Germany. Actually, probably started beforehand. And this has been declassified. You can go look this up. But yeah, we decided to bring over I think 1,600 actual Nazis. It wasn't just Werner von Braun. We brought over 1,600 of these motherfuckers.
Yeah.
Russia did the same thing. And it was because we were competing with Russia. We knew that Nazis had the best scientists in the world. I mean, they, outside of like Einstein, the Nazis had the best scientists in the world. And we knew that Russia having taken half of Germany and us having taken half of Germany, more than likely, someone was going to take these scientists and use them.
Yeah.
Now, these scientists were committing human, like, crimes against humanity.
Yeah.
There was one of them. I don't know if we got him or if he died during the war, but he was taking twins and doing experiments. Like, he would kill one twin in some horrible
the other one felt it.
way to see if the other one felt it.
I remember that.
Yeah. Like, these are the dudes that we were swooping up, and we brought them over to America. We taught them English. We taught them how to integrate into society. And then we released them into our country. Like, they were just going to magically stop being Nazis all of a sudden. Now, success cases in that are Werner von Braun. I mean, as far as we know, he didn't do anything else that was, against humanity itself while he was working for us. But yeah, people talk about the statues, and I agree. Like,
I'm much more offended. Like, not that I understand the statues and stuff. I get why people would be offended by them, because some of those people, I don't know, man. I'm not really educated on all of that. I'm not educated on the Holocaust. I do know a lot of Jewish people were killed in the Holocaust, and there is a whole mess of people in Huntsville, a whole bunch of stuff named after the people that were doing it.
Yep.
I don't know the people on the statues. I do know there was the war. It was like, what, the North and the South?
Yeah, the Civil War, yeah.
The people that fought, because some people say Abraham Lincoln wasn't really anti-slavery. They say he was just doing it. He was saying that, blah, blah, blah.
That's fairly true.
I think if they want to be proud of their side that was doing whatever their side was saying it was and all this, I think that should be okay. I feel much, just not knowing who the statues are and all that, I feel much weirder about the Von Braun thing now that I know that. And I didn't know that until a year ago, 6 months.
Well,
and that's
how
crazy.
A lot of people feel about the Southern statues too. But I can talk to that point, and just giving resources for anybody watching. If you want to go check out some really cool history, my family was basically funding the southern side of the Civil War. You can go to hairston.org. You can see all the plantations that the Hairstons used to own. There's actually one still in existence in North Carolina called Cooley Plantation. It's a national historical monument.
Wild.
The white side and the black side of the Hairston family both still work there. It's still in the Hairston name. There was a dude that wrote a book about it called The Hairstons, an American Family in Black and White, and it tells the story of the rise of the white side of the family to basically becoming the most wealthy family in the United States at the time of the Civil War, to our choosing to fund the wrong side of that war and losing our entire fortune and most of our property. To
aggravating.
And you fast forward to the modern day, we have it's called the National Hairston Clan Reunion. And it's the white and black sides of the Hairston family. They get together for a national family reunion and talk about these kinds of issues.
That's wild.
I'm extremely proud of my family and our history, but that was an extremely dark time during that, everybody makes mistakes, and my family made one of the worst, you can't even really call it a mistake, one of the worst choices they could have made, which was we owned more slaves in this country as a family than any other group of people owned in this country. Like we had basically the entire North Carolina and Virginia border. We owned all that land and had slaves working on that. We had, and I say
now,
we.
Now you, yeah, okay.
Hairston's.
So you keep saying we,
right
now, not you. You've never owned a
I
slave.
had nothing to do with it. Yeah.
Now, to that, some people would say there's reparations owed. Do you feel you owe reparations for something that you had no involvement in? And this is just a conversation.
I feel like I owe awareness to what my family name, where it came from, what it's done in its past. As far as straight up paying reparations, I don't know. I mean, it's hard for me to say because I'm not the victim. It's not for me to decide whether I owe anything or not. That's for the victims to decide. And at the end of the day, the way I base my politics, my religion, everything is values and principles. That's what I teach my children. We don't really teach rules at our house. I mean, obviously there are some rules. You can't stick a fork in an electrical socket.
Don't smoke cigarettes right now.
Right. But other than that, it's generally principles. If you wrong somebody, it's not their job to make it right. It's your job to make it right. If you steal something, it's not their job to come get it from you. It's not their job to prosecute you. They're not the ones that are going to make you suffer. You having stolen something is what's going to make you suffer. And until you make it right, you're going to continue to suffer. And it's because if you're a good person,
it's going to eat at you.
It's going to eat at you. And that's kind of how slavery has affected the white community at large in the United States. No, did you and I make the decision to enslave them? Absolutely not.
No.
But it was an evil. And it was an evil that played out across generations of people.
And as far as I know, I don't know anyone in my family that did. I don't.
Right.
Not
every family did.
I don't think we've ever had money.
Right. Well, the last lynching in the state of Alabama, I believe, was in 1981. Those people are still alive.
That's insane.
Yeah.
That's awful.
That is how recently this has been playing out. So it's not up for us as white people to decide what makes that right.
Now, that lady, who's that lady that said that boy touched her and he didn't? And she's still alive.
Right now. Yeah. I don't know her name, but I know who you're talking about.
Do I think she should be in jail? Yeah. Same as like if anyone else was to claim like a false rape and then like get found out. Yes, she should be in jail. Now, once she dies, do I think her kids should be in jail or anything? No, they didn't do that. So I don't know how to say it any different than that. She should be in jail. Yes. Yeah. Right now.
Hey, did you know about the Jackson 5?
No, go.
If you live around here, I'm not going to try because I know I'm going to get some info wrong, but it's just right down there. Go to the Jackson County Courthouse and look, they've got a marker there. It was I think it was 5 black brothers that were chased down by the law and killed just for being black. It's down at the courthouse. It's a piece of history. Sadly, I'm not brushed up on because I didn't prepare to talk about it, but yeah, Jackson 5 in Jackson County, Alabama, just right down the mountain from us.
Now, see, that's insane.
Yeah,
that's crazy to me. On a different note, we're gonna take a big crazy dive.
Absolutely.
Where you at on OnlyFans, man? How do you feel on it?
I had a bit in my set.
Quick.
Yeah, I had a bit in my set about it for a while. I'm down with it, I guess. I'm obviously I'm not gonna do it. I don't have the looks.
Well, would you be married to someone doing it?
Yeah, absolutely. I've dated people that do it.
Okay. All right. So why do you think sexuality is such a different thing now as opposed to when our grandparents were little? Because I know, like, my grandmother got smashed out by my granddaddy.
Right.
But it was just granddaddy.
Right.
It wasn't 7, 8, 10, 15 people before. Why is there 10 to 15 sexual partners now before settling down as opposed to 1 or 2 before? Why is it such a hypersexual, time?
Right. Well, on the one hand, you've got the decline of Christianity, not as a religion, but as a control mechanism. Since the Catholic Church was started, they have dictated morality of government, from the witch trials to enforcing monogamy to enforcing their religion over other religions. Whatever it is, the Catholic Church for a very long point in history, had a lot of say. Then in America, when we moved away from the Catholic Church, we didn't really. We just replaced it with a different version of the Catholic Church that had some different rule sets, but we were still enforcing it socially as if it were law. And it wasn't until the 60s when the hippie culture came up and people started doing a whole lot of psychedelics and kind of having spiritual awakenings here and there. Some of them were just burnout druggies, but some of them were having spiritual awakenings. You get Terence McKenna, you get, I can't think of his name right now. The Buddhist dude from England. Yeah, I can't think of his name, but you get some people having some genuine spiritual enlightenment. Then you also get Buddhism starting to move into the West with Sunryu Suzuki and Brad Warner is a modern day guy that's bringing that over here. We got a lot of people bringing Buddhism to the West. And in Buddhism, the rules are very similar, but it's not the same meaning. So, the 10 Commandments, thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's wife, whatever. It's a good rule of thumb. Don't go try to sleep with your neighbor's wife. With Buddhism, it's more don't misuse sexuality. So misusing sexuality is often interpreted like don't be so attached to the sexuality that you're basing your life around it. But otherwise, you're going to love who you love. Like I'm polyamorous myself, which means I have multiple partners, which I think is just the base. I think that's always been the base. I don't think if you have multiple children, you don't love just one kid. You can love both kids and you love them equally. If you have 3 pets, maybe you do have a favorite pet, but you love all 3 of your pets. You got 4 grandparents in total.
My dog tore up my fucking Christmas present earlier. I don't love that dog. Keep going. I'm sorry.
No, it's just in general, humans tend to love multiple things. I don't know why or where we decided to start strictly enforcing that with our sexuality, we were only allowed to love one thing. And I think that really is our natural state. The monogamous thing is cool. And like I was monogamous for a long time. I understand it. I think in that generation that we're talking about, times were a lot harder. Your partner meant whether you had dinner or not.
Yeah.
At that point, your family unit was dad outside working his ass off all day long, not sitting down until after the sun already set. And then waking up before the sun came up and going out and doing it all over. And mom had to be in there making clothes, cooking dinner, doing all this stuff. But that dynamic has shifted. And at this point, we're able to be more free.
Yeah. Now, so for me and my family, I am completely monogamous with my wife. I'm not going to be a liar. There has been times that I have flirted with women. Right?
Yeah.
That has happened. There's been women that I've looked at, and that's a sin, right? We're hit with that regularly. This is me talking for my part.
Yeah.
I do believe in Jesus and stuff. There's been times I've done that. My wife is my partner, my friend. That is my wife. Mm-hmm. If someone was to attempt to hit on my wife, we would have a great issue, right? As is my right. That's my wife, but she would be the same.
Right.
I know there's been men reach out to her and hit on her, and I'm super not into it. She is my wife. That is my family unit, man. She's like a really big part of my life, and I like for it to be that way.
Right.
If people want to be polyamorous, totally fine.
Right.
It's not my place to him, and that's not cool, bro.
As long as you're not hurting anybody.
Because me looking at another woman, or even allowing that split second of talking to her flirtatiously, in my view, well, that's also a sin. If we're going based on sin, obviously we're different boat, but that's also a sin, buddy. So I can't judge you for having multiple partners when I'm over here, thinking about things. With you being polyamorous, has it been easy? Has it been a problem? Has it caused any arguments between like the family unit or?
No, my wife and I are really solid. Like we communicate really well. It's definitely not easy, but relationships are never easy. I mean, have you ever been in a relationship that was just easy and fun all the time?
No.
Right. It's that multiplied. Like it's a lot less fun than a lot of people. I get a lot of random people hitting me up, a lot of dudes that'll randomly message me when they find out I'm in a polyamorous relationship. Dude, how can I convince my wife to? And I'm like, bro, if you got to convince her, it ain't like that's the thing. It's like you have to be able to talk. For my wife and I, we talked about it.
How many people that have asked you that? Have you said you need to be okay with another man touching your wife? Have you ever said that?
I did in the beginning. I started saying that.
What did they say then?
Almost always. No, I wouldn't do that. Right. But I shifted tact now. And a lot of times when I talk to him, I say, why do you feel like you need to convince her? Because you feel like she's not poly. If she's not poly, that ain't going to work. Because it's just like you said, I know your wife is not, but say your wife did discover, oh, I'm poly, but you're not. You're definitely not ever going to be okay with another man having sex with her.
No.
That's not going to work out. Like, she's going to have to make a decision on whether or not she wants to be with you or with multiple people. But it's not going to work if both of you aren't on the same page.
Don't agree.
Right.
Like if I want to have sex with other women, but I'm not okay with her having sex with other men, that's a wild go. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's,
I can see that.
There's almost no room in polyamory for selfishness, miscommunication, or jealousy. You have to be able, both of you, all of the partners in the relationship. And that's the other thing. The language is set up to be both of you. But once you're in a polyamorous relationship, now it's all of you have to be on the same page. You have to communicate with each other very clearly. There are boundaries. You know, there are things that I'm not okay with. For one thing, like, you know, I'm not going to disrespect my wife. I'm not going to have something happening around her. Or I'm doing PDA right in front of her. Things like some poly couples, or polycules is what they call them. It's to reference everyone in the relationship. Some people are all right with that. And some, I know a few polycules that all live together. I wouldn't be able to do that. Like, I value my isolation. I don't even talk to my wife sometimes. There are days that I stay in my room. I write books. I write jokes. I do whatever I'm doing, but I don't want to be around anybody. I'm definitely not one to, like, I don't want to build a whole family living in one big house.
Yeah, that'd be awful.
Yeah. No, yeah, I don't want that. But, you know, there's levels to polyamory. There are people with vastly different opinions on how to do polyamory healthily. And sadly, there are a lot of unhealthy polyamorous relationships.
So cavemen were polyamorous incredibly, right? Now, were cavemen?
We think, yeah.
Were cavemen probably letting their women do things? You think they were letting their women do things with other men?
Yeah, I think so.
I don't think cavemen were. They were. I think they were fucking shit up if that happened, because there was that big dog in the pack that was like, no.
Yeah, I mean, you're always going to have your alpha, but your alphas usually have harems, and your harems are almost never loyal to your alpha. You look at what walruses are famous for doing this. You'll have an alpha walrus that has a harem of like 15 to 20 female walruses.
Yeah.
And you'll have what they call the tricksters over on the side. They're males that are there, and they'll just like find a way to still be breeding with the female walrus. And the way evolution works is their genes are getting passed down, not as fluently as the alphas, but those genes will always be there. So there will always be those tricksters, right?
Yeah.
And I think the same thing's true of prehistory humanity. Before we had civilization and culture, you got a tribal community. I'm sure there were multiple lovers on multiple fronts for all genders. But you look at where monogamy comes from, specifically with Judeo-Christian values. Monogamy comes from a tribe of people that were wandering in the desert, frequently interacting with, being enslaved by, or just generally fucked over by other bigger empires and things. So they started making rules that said, hey, let's keep our tribe what it is. Let's not breed randomly. Let's direct what we're doing. And took control of that and said, okay, a man owns, at this time it's a fucked up thing, but it was what was happening. A man owns his wife. And the second that women became property, it became much more like, am I going to be cool with you coming and driving my truck? No. You can't just come up in my yard and take my truck out.
Yeah.
And if that's how you're thinking about your woman, then that's what it is. But at the same time, Solomon had like 400 wives.
Yeah.
So that's poly. I mean, like, he was living polyamorously.
Yeah, but they weren't.
But his wives weren't allowed to go do those things. As women become more free, man, honestly, I've gotten to this point where people are just people to me. Like,
I do think people should be able to live how they want to.
Yeah.
This is just us. Like, I have a different view.
Right.
Blah, blah, blah. I at the end of the day, if I'm living a Christian lifestyle, I can't judge you for anything that you're doing. You know what I mean?
Yep.
I can't. And that's how I try to do it. Everyone's going to do something bad that is a sin. I can't judge you for it.
Yeah.
Do I raise I try not to like talk about too crazy stuff in front of my kids, but like, I don't assume y'all do either. I don't assume you're out there like, hey son, this is your mom.
Oh yeah. No.
This is my other girlfriend. Right?
No.
Or how does that work?
Yeah. I don't go out of my way to hide it, but.
You have a daughter too?
Mm-hmm.
Is that weird for you at all? Like,
No, I mean, she's a human. My son's a human. You know, they're fortunately for me as a dad right now, they're children and they have no,
They're just out.
yeah,
Yeah,
they
I
don't
get
understand
that. I get that.
sexuality. They don't understand anything
That's
like
good.
that.
I get that.
Now I'm not introducing them to every person that I talk to or every person that I date.
This is Joni.
Yeah, it's the same way. I mean, imagine if you were, imagine you were a single dad and you had your kids around and you're out there dating. Would you bring home every woman that you knew and introduce them to your kids? And
No.
I treat it the same way.
I get that.
There are relationships that I've had that have been long term. So I dated one girl for nearly a year, and the kids met her, they knew her. I just don't make a big deal out of it. It's just, hey,
I get it.
This chick's here now. We're hanging out. Yeah,
I got you.
I'm not into PDA in general, so like nobody's ever really going to see me kissing up on my wife or doing anything in public, much less anybody else. So it's
So on the we're back again. We're kind of going back and forth.
Yeah,
dude, it's been an hour.
Sorry if I'm rambling.
No, you're good. It's been great. We got a little bit of time left. On the subject of like Jewish people and things like that. Why do you think Kanye's saying what he's saying right now?
I have not been listening to Kanye.
Have you heard anything about what he's saying?
I've heard he said some anti-Semitic stuff.
So he said the other day he was going DEFCON 4 on Jewish people.
Wow.
And he did say the Jewish people, he said the Jewish people own the media and the news and stuff, and they would try to cancel him.
I feel like...
Do Jewish people own the media overall?
No.
Or what? Why is
there some Jewish people that own some media? Yeah, absolutely. There are some Jewish people that own some media corporations.
And some rocket ship. No, that's Nazis. Some rocket ships.
Yeah,
that's the Nazis.
Yeah, no, that was the Nazis. Well, it's the same thing you were going back to saying.
But not all Nazis own.
Right.
Okay, I got you.
Well, and not all white people own slaves.
Yes.
So at the end of the day, I don't think the Jewish people...
You think
first of all, even within Israel, which Israel as a government, not as a race of people, but as a government, has done some atrocious things to Palestine. They've some of it they would argue is defense. As a former intelligence worker, I would say some of it's just fucking atrocious shit they're doing to the Palestinians. But they're not. Most organizations and groups of people, especially when you get as big as a race, are not coordinated enough to pull off some of the shit that an anti-Semitic person would have you believe Jewish people are doing. You've got some of the popular anti-Semite lines, or that they control the media as a race, that every country they're ever in, they get cast out of, and all this bullshit. And it's like, well, yeah, I mean, first of all, historically speaking, the Jewish people have been one of the most oppressed groups of people on the face of this planet. I don't know why, probably because they're a tribal culture that maintains their tribal identity, and capitalism hates that, just like they did with the Scottish people, just like they did with the African people, just like they did with the Irish people. Capitalism can't stand a solid tribal culture. It's very hard to control a tribal culture. And that's, I think, why they get in a lot of trouble as a culture. They are very devoted to their religion, to their cultural heritage, to who they are as a people. And I think that bugs. They don't integrate well, and that bugs a lot of people. But I'm proud of them for it. Like, more power to them. On top of that, yeah, there are some very rich Jewish individuals that run some businesses, and there are some very rich Jewish assholes. But that's not
all people,
all Jewish people. Like, that's just Elon Musk is also a rich asshole. We're not saying that all South Africans are controlling the electric car industry. It's just, there's one or two people up there, and there are some non-Jewish people that also own media corporations.
Do you think he was just mad at some Jewish people? I
don't know what's going on with Kanye. I think Kanye, like myself, is struggling with some mental health issues, and also, like myself, can say some wild shit. The difference between Kanye and myself is I have a following of like 100 people, and he has a few 100 million.
Yeah.
So his is in the spotlight. That's why I try not to pay attention to it.
That's a pretty good answer, actually.
We gawk at mental health, and
mental health is real. I have problems too. People don't want to believe that because I talk all this shit. I pump my chest a little bit. Shit's hard, man. Life's fucking hard.
Yeah.
I told a story the other day, man. I was in a gas station, and I am not as successful as I feel that I should be right now. And I was screaming in my fucking car. No one was around.
Yeah.
I was screaming in my car because I was just fucking mad that I ain't where I'm supposed. Like, I feel I'm supposed to be at right now.
This is the second of 4 podcasts that I'm doing this month to promote, by the way, veterans charity comedy show that I produce called Post Traumatic Stress Relief. We're putting that on at Straight to L in the Speakeasy Room on November 11th. It's $10 to get in. $5 of every $10 goes to Still Serving Veterans, which is an amazing veterans charity in Huntsville that links up veterans with jobs. They've got a place you can just go crash at if you're having an episode or you're having a mental health crisis. They got people you can talk to. Their website is ssv.org if you want to go check them out. But
and you can donate on there probably.
Yeah, you can also donate on there, or you can also donate more money at the door. My wife will be taking up tickets, so just let her know how much you're donating, and we'll write that down. We'll give you a receipt for that so that you can claim that on taxes if you want to write it off, but also so we make sure we're donating the right amount.
Yes.
But yeah, if y'all want to come support veterans, it's not just me. I am a Buddhist, leftist, angry, salty veteran, but we also have we've got one veteran from every branch. Tyler will actually be coming up. He's doing some time on the show because our headliner out of Colorado had to drop out last minute. But we've got a bunch of veterans, one from every branch. We got all different walks of life, all sorts of different types of comedy. That's going to be an amazing show. So come check that
everyone's always talking about helping veterans, homeless veterans, all this stuff. That's a good thing to go out for. Go help.
Yep.
Whether you like left, right, whatever, there's going to be something for everybody there. Definitely worth doing. And Straight to L is fucking awesome. You'll have all kinds of beer, all kinds of good time. That'd be a really, really good thing to go out to, man. That's very cool. That's neat. That'll be neat.
But we were talking about, sorry, I got off subject, but we were talking about mental health. This is the second of 4 that I'm doing this week. And I have just been having straight panic attacks, not because I'm nervous about coming on and talking, but just like, I don't know what's going to happen. And so because of that, the unknown terrifies me. I like to have a plan for everything. And when there's nothing to plan for, because I don't know, I start freaking out. And I feel like the same people that get on Facebook and post, check on your friends, call people, make sure they're all right. Mental health exists. And like, I say mental health because I don't like singling out any individual disorder or diagnosing people when I don't know what their diagnosis is. So catch-all term, mental health. People like Kanye, we gawk at, we judge, we let him entertain us with his mental health crisis. And then we go on Facebook like, oh, we need to be more aware of how our friend, like, the reason I'm not paying attention to what Kanye is saying is if it's anti-Semitic, I don't want to fucking hear it. Like, I'm not down with anti-Semites. The Jewish people are fine. Like, they're not part of my culture. They're not part of my religion, but just like any other group of people that aren't part of my culture and religion, they're fine. They're not hurting anybody. Leave them the fuck alone. Be who they are. Right. Like, we have a whole book called the Bible that's all about how shitty they got treated pretty much everywhere they ever went. And then after the Bible ends, you've got recorded history that talks about how shitty they've been treated. Let's just leave them alone, like, but at the same time, if Kanye is going off on one of his rants, we know this man is not mentally stable. He's proven that time and time again that he's not mentally stable. He's having another episode. He needs psychiatric help, more than likely. I can't give it, and I'm not going to add to the pool of people mocking him over that. And not to mention, like, as a comedian, I see every open micer, every time one of these things happens, every open micer comes up, oh, have you heard about blah, blah? And they go off on some shitty joke about it, and it's like, okay, all right.
It's a good answer that you went both sides, though.
Yeah.
Because you could be like, he's an asshole.
Yeah, I mean, well, yeah, he is, but he's also mentally ill. Like,
yeah,
I'm also an asshole and mentally ill. And when I'm really mentally ill, I'm an even bigger asshole.
Well, that's like, wait, everybody thinks I'm an asshole. I'm not. I'm just very, very blunt with what I say and do.
Right.
My kids tell me all the time, like, Dad, you look mad. You like a dick. And I'm like, but I'm not. It's just it's my face. I'm thinking about shit all the time.
Yep.
And I get that, man. That's pretty wild. Man, we're about to shut it down. We're almost done. 5 years from now, man, what's the plan? What's going on?
Oh, I don't know, man. I used to try to direct my life to a T. I was making a lot more money when I did that, but I was a lot more miserable. So I try to just go places and tell jokes. And I've been really fortunate in the last 5 years to be able to go to some really cool places and tell some jokes. And I've told some jokes to some really cool people. And I hope that keeps happening. And I hope in 5 years, I'm going really wild, crazy places all over the world telling jokes. But I could be doing the same thing, or I could be telling jokes here in Fort Payne. I don't know. I'll still be telling jokes in 5 years. That's all I know.
That's very cool, man. That's very cool. Man, that's all the time we've got today. That was an easy hour. We got to get on again. We got to talk some more. I really appreciate the time. Go follow Roy Hairston on Facebook. What all you got?
Yeah, Roy Hairston Comedy on TikTok is the place I'm trying to direct people to. I don't post on there a lot, but if you want to get involved in the crazy political atmosphere that I create on Facebook. Come follow the Facebook page too. It's a good time. Just remember, most of it's a joke, and the parts that are not are mental health crises. So, try to take it easy.
Check on your friends. Next show is November 11th.
Yep, November 11th, straight to L in the speakeasy room. You got to roll back. It's a false wall of lockers. You got to roll back to get into. But I'll be out there barking and yelling at people.
That's very cool. I'm gonna try to be there. You should try to be there. Try to have some fun. Help out a good cause. I really appreciate the time, man.
Thanks for having me on, Sam.
Thanks for tuning in. Y'all have a good